To celebrate Black history through the arts. But we cannot celebrate without talking about Black history being told through music, which is why we have Walter joining us on our Studio 10 stage. Welcome.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's
Michelle.
so great to have you to explore Black history through music. But first, you've been a musician for over 30 years, plus an educator. But I have to ask you, let's take it back a few years.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. But do you remember the first time you picked up your first instrument and you played your first note?
Yeah, well, you know, I come from a family of musicians. And interestingly enough, my grandmother, it's all her fault. She was a teacher at the Cleveland Institute of Music in the late 60s as a Black woman.
Wow.
That's a real accomplishment.
Yeah.
Cleveland Institute of Music and the Cleveland Symphony Orchestra was one of the greatest orchestras in the world. And they're still pretty good now.
Yeah.
So my father played the bass, my mother sings, and she played the piano, and we would always have people come over and play, and I would jam. When they would leave, I would play, the drummer would leave his drum set in the dining room, and I would play on the drums or play on my mother's piano and synthesizer and keyboard and stuff like that. And then when I was 6, my father took me to the music store. Now, remember, he played the bass, and he surprised me. He said, pick an instrument. So naturally, I was 6, my father played the bass, I pointed to a violin.
Oh.
And he said, pick another instrument. Have you ever heard beginning violin players?
Oh, it's
Like, yeah, it's horrible.
boy.
So I picked a saxophone.
Yeah.
And the reason why I picked the saxophone is because at that time, the Superman movie came out with Christopher Reeves, and I was all about Superman. To me, it looked like an S.
Oh, there you go. And the rest is history. And you have had a 30-year career, but you've worked with so many amazing people. Like we mentioned, Aretha Franklin,
That's right.
Yeah.
Diana Ross, who have left an impact on this industry. So what's it been what was a huge takeaway from after working with them?
Yeah, you know, I think one or two of the most important things that I could share with all of us, my experience working with different types of people all over the planet, is that it's important to just be yourself. That speaks volumes. And, you know, working with a lot of people in different environments on movies and TVs and performances and theaters and nightclubs and people's living rooms and everything, you know, full circle. I think I've learned to kind of appreciate the value of everyone's story and being kind of inclusive of all. I think that's the biggest thing that I can take away and share with people from that experience.
I love that. When you say be yourself, you are also perform in a way at MSU too as well as a professor. But is there anything that you feel like the students teach you?
Yeah, they teach me to have patience. And, you know, I think they teach me also the importance of having compassion and understanding. You know, I think that, especially this being Black History Month, you know, diversity is an important aspect of America, because that's what it takes all of us to make this great country. And that's kind of what jazz is about. So when I'm teaching the students, they kind of help me to remind that, because they come from all over the country, you know, to make this music. And one of the things that I think is important is that they always remind me the importance of being able to understand the beauty of our differences as well as the things that we have in common.
Yeah, wow, that's beautifully said. And what's so exciting is that you're going to be performing, of course, Urban Beat later. So we're super excited, but we know that you have a little bit of a tease for us on our Studio 10 stage.
That's right. So Walter isn't going anywhere just yet. Everybody stay tuned. Coming up after the break, he's going to serenade us. And we can't wait.
All right.
We'll be right back after a short break.